of admission here at Denison. Really thrilled to have you here for our information session. We're going to be chatting for between 45 and 60 minutes, depending on how many questions you have, and telling you more about Denison. This is Benny, and I'll let him introduce himself in just a moment. He is a current student at Denison. In the meantime, if you have questions during this presentation, please feel free to use the Q&A function, and Benny and I will answer your questions during the information session if they kind of are appropriate for what we're going to be talking about, or we'll just wait until the end and we'll answer all of your questions then. So, Benny, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, gladly. So my name's Benny Mandelbrot. I'm a senior. I'm a history and education double major. I'm from Wellesley, Massachusetts, which is a suburb of Boston. I'm actually coming to you today from Denison. So I'm in my room, which is in a senior apartment that's on campus. So I got here 2 days ago, and I just had my first day of classes.
Yeah, it's a very exciting day in Granville. I am coming to you from Los Angeles, California, so we have a somewhat bi-coastal information session going on today. And we would love to know, where are you coming from? So here's poll number 1. And while you take this poll, I'm actually going to pull up our first slide, which is some of the more important statistics or numbers about Denison here. Benny and I aren't going to talk a lot about numbers today. We're going to talk more about what makes Denison unique, what our community is like, but I think these are some important kind of numbers, especially if this is your first interaction with Denison, to just learn a little bit about who we are. Wow, we have people from all over today, except for the Southwest, but that's great. Welcome everyone. Just a few more poll questions. Typically we would make you introduce yourself in person, so this is a little less scary for some, but it just helps us if you could tell us like who you are. Are you intending to be a first-year student? Are you just here to learn more about Denison? There is at least one person who's just here to learn more about Denison, which is great. Always love when those people show up. Okay, I think we have almost everyone, so we'll end it. And here, most of you are first-year or incoming first-year students. And then the third poll is, can you just tell us a little bit about your main academic interest? We'll try and hit a little bit of everything, but it's helpful and just interesting to know kind of who we are. And it's totally fine if you're not sure. We are a liberal arts college, and we specialize in that. I would say students who have a variety of interests or who just really aren't sure and need a little bit of guidance. Okay, yeah, we have all over the map today, which is, this is a very diverse group. Honestly, might be one of the more diverse groups that I've had recently. Okay, so we're gonna, tell you a little bit about Denison. Again, we're a 4-year residential liberal arts college. We have about 2,300 students, and we're gonna talk a lot about these pieces, but I thought it was just important to show you a little bit about who we are. So our first slide today is about our location. So we are located in Granville, Ohio. You can see a map of the United States here. If you're not sure where Ohio is in the United States, that's fine. This is where we are. And Granville is kind of right in the middle of Ohio. Granville is a small town. I'm going to let Benny kind of talk about his experience there in a second. But I will say for me, it really reminds me more of a New England style town. It was based off of Granville, Massachusetts, so that makes a lot of sense. You're really seeing like the main drag of Granville here. There's another side of the street, but it's a great little town, and I'm, again, going to let Benny kind of talk about his experience and does it go into Granville and what do you do in Granville, etc.
Yeah, definitely. So being from the Boston area, I can definitely attest that Granville definitely has the charm and feel of a New England style town. So you look, and yeah, what you're looking at is Broadway and Main Street, and it's a really cute downtown. There's a lot of great places to eat. It kind of has everything a college student could need. So if you need a haircut, there's CVS there. There's a grocery store in town. There's also a really great bike path. So I bring my bike to school, and I can go biking into town, and the town really has a great feel to it. The people are really cued into what's going on with Denison. So being at Denison now, like walking around, there are people saying welcome to Denison, and like they're excited to have us back. So it's really nice that the college and the town have a really close relationship.
Yeah, and also you can see in this picture lots of different places to eat. Like, I don't know how many, I don't know if you do, Benny.
A dozen, yeah,
but like,
yeah, 10 or 12.
Yeah, it's it's like a great spot. It's really close to campus. Honestly, campus is truly more or less right behind these buildings. And so in terms of proximity, Benny has a bike. You don't have to have a bike to get. Yeah, it's very, very short. It's just it's down a steep hill, but that's Granville. And I think our students really like that. And I would say I would echo Benny's comment on the town and gown relationship. You know, we're going to talk a lot about the different opportunities for students at Denison, and everything basically is open to the residents of Granville as well. A lot of faculty and staff live in Granville, so there's just a really close connection. Kind of a little bit further, the initial slide says 25 minutes to Columbus. I think it's more like 35 to 40-ish minutes to Columbus, not because of traffic. It just kind of depends on like where you're going in Columbus, right? Like, but Columbus is pretty close. It has over 2 million people, as you can see here. It's the capital. It's the 14th largest city in the United States, and it is really great. I'm going to let Benny kind of talk about his experience in Columbus, and then I'll tell you about my experience in Columbus.
Yeah, so being from the Boston area, I usually fly into the Columbus airport. So I do have a car on campus, which I make the 12-hour drive at the start and end of the school year. But flying over Thanksgiving and Christmas, I go to the airport, which is about 20 minutes from campus, and that's another 15 minutes to the city. So it's in a nice central location. And then I probably go into Columbus about 3 or 4 times a semester. So I love pro hockey, so whenever my Bruins come to play in Columbus, I'll go and see them play. The Short North is a really cool kind of up-and-coming neighborhood with art galleries and great restaurants, so I like to make a trip there just to kind of mix it up and get off campus a couple times a semester.
Yeah, and also, you know, Benny talked about sports and the Short North. Columbus also just generally is the home of Ohio State University, and I think, you know, it's really great because that means there are a lot of students in Columbus, a lot of young people, and Columbus is changing a lot all of the time. I like to say my fiance is from Columbus, and so I've been going there long before I started working at Denison, and every time I go back, it's just cooler and cooler. Between the restaurants, there's a great art scene in Columbus, so Benny goes to the sports games, which also not really a professional sports team, but Ohio State, more or less professional sports if you want to go there too. But I love going to the theater. There are a lot of different museums, and it's just a really great city. We'll talk more about like professional opportunities later, but I think that also our students really get the benefits of a small town like Granville with access to this city. And it's not as common for liberal arts colleges like us to be quite as accessible. Also between us and Columbus, probably more in that like 25 minutes, Benny, would you say is a spot called Easton, which is like an outdoor mall that has a lot of shopping, a lot of restaurants. And so Denison provides shuttles to Easton. Also sometimes Denison does like school-sponsored events in Columbus, but either way, it's a really great city. I think it's just a wonderful place, especially to be a younger person.
Definitely.
Anything else to add, Benny?
I guess I'd say like for people who are maybe curious about transportation, so I have a car on campus that makes it really easy to get to Columbus, but if you don't have a car, you'll find at Denison you can have your car all 4 years, so it's really easy to find a ride from a friend. I know like of my room, I live with 3 other people, and 3 of us have cars, but if not, there's shuttles from Denison to Columbus. There's Uber and Lyft, so getting around is really easy.
There are also rental cars on campus, like Zip cars, and they're pretty subsidized as well, especially once you fill the car up. It's quite cheap to get around. So Relational College, as I said, we're going to talk a lot more about that portion of Denison because you can read statistics online, but it's harder to get the vibe for the relational aspect. Benny, I'm going to let you kind of take this away, and then I'll kind of add whatever at the end.
Yeah, so Denison is all about relationships, so I've made some great friends while I've been here. Being at a small liberal arts college, you really get to know everyone really well. So there's only 2,300 students, so when I walk to class typically, I usually see about the same people every day. I don't know everyone's name, but I definitely see a lot of familiar faces, and I really like that. So I'm in a fraternity of 50 guys, and I know I can go to a dining hall. We have 2 dining halls on each side of campus. I can go, and most likely I'll see at least one of my good friends. So I really like that kind of family, close-knit atmosphere. And, you know, this extends to athletics, clubs, relationships with faculty, which we'll talk about in a little bit. So I really like that sense of community that Denison has.
Yeah, I think, we'll talk about professors, as Benny said, but I also like to hit like the staff piece on this slide, because I think that, and we'll talk about it kind of throughout, I think the relationships are really everyone at Denison. It's not just professors and students or professors and staff. It's any pinpoint of those three. I think this is a place where people really care about each other. Benny, really hit the nail on the head with the size. The 2,300, I think, is a sweet spot. It's a little bit bigger than some liberal arts colleges, but quite a bit smaller than even what I would say mid-sized universities at 5,000 or more. And so I think that, yeah, it's just a great place, and that residential aspect really helps with that. And we can talk more about that, or if you have questions about anything, let us know. So this is really kind of one of the only statistics we share formally in this information session. About 2.5 years ago, Gallup did a survey of college students nationwide and found that about 22% of them said that they find a mentor. At Denison, this is a statistic of which we are very proud. 92% of our students say that they find a mentor on campus. Benny, do you want to kind of talk about your mentor and how you found that person and that process?
Yeah, so I have 2 advisors on campus. So I'm a history major, so I've one in that department and one in the education department, and both Dr. Proctor and Professor Baker are really close, really friends of mine, and so I've been able to rely on them for advice over the years, and kind of being in 2 different departments, I'll get advice in those areas, but I want to be a high school history teacher, so I've gotten a lot of career advice, a lot of great life advice, and they're always a person I can turn and talk to, and all our classes are pretty small, so even if it's a class I take and I never have that professor again, if I see them at the dining hall or see them around campus, they're always friendly, and I feel like it's always easy to reach back. I've had letters of recommendation from multiple faculty members that even if I've only had them one time, they still remember me being them, and definitely like take the chance being in a small school with small class sizes, really try to get to know your faculty. They're really smart and have a lot of good advice.
Benny, can you talk a little bit, it's not necessarily about mentorship, but can you talk about like the advising process and your experience, like finding your advisor? What does that look like at Denison?
Yeah, so it's really easy. So there's a form on My Denison, which is all students you can add and drop an advisor. So really look to meet someone before you add them as an advisor. But yeah, if you take a class, say, in the religion department, and you didn't see yourself as a religion major before, you can just add that professor as an advisor, and then you can stick with it. And maybe you take one more religion class and you don't like it, you can decide to change majors or just drop that advisor. It's a really easy process, and we have what's called advising circles. So when you come into Denison as a first year, if you declare a major, you're given an advisor in that department. So I came in as a history major, I was assigned Dr. Proctor, and I had an advising circle which had about 15 kids, and we were all his advisees, and he would kind of lead us through how to be successful students in college, giving us study strategies, social skills, all kinds of things. And so we would meet once a week. He'd sometimes take us out for ice cream or pizza. It's really laid back, and it was a pass-fail, 1-credit class. So through things like that, Denison really helps set students up for success by helping them meet faculty.
Yeah, and I think just to reiterate what Benny said earlier is you don't have to, like, the advisor is not the only person who's going to support you on campus, right? Your professors are all at Denison because they want to be at a place like Denison where they can create relationships with their students and really get to know them as people and not just numbers in a room. There are no TAs at Denison. Professors are teaching all the classes, which really helps facilitate that mentorship. So innovative academic programs. We in the past, well, this year we have 2 new academic majors, and about 5 years ago we added 5 new academic programs, including, I should have said them, like data analytics, health, exercise, and sports studies, global commerce, which is kind of like an international business style degree. This year, global health, and is it politics? I never can remember the new one. Politics analysis, public policy analysis. I literally can never remember. I'm so sorry. That is the one thing that I really need to cram into my brain. But this is a place where we have a lot of traditional liberal arts majors, biology, economics, communications. Those tend to be very, very popular in terms of the numbers of students studying them. But we're not afraid to add new programs. We're not afraid to kind of look at ourselves, reflect, and see what will make us better and what will make our students more ready to go out and be productive citizens of the world. Do you have anything to add about maybe academic classes that you've found really engaging or surprising, Benny, or anything about the innovation?
Yeah, so I took a Hess class my first year. I was thinking about being a Hess major, but I decided the department's a little too science-oriented for me. So it was called History and Philosophy of Sports and Health. It was an intro-level class and it was really interesting. It looked at sport from a historical perspective, which I loved as a history major, but looked at it from philosophical side. It looked at it kind of like the connection between the health and the body. So it was really cool how I looked at it from all these angles, and that's remained one of my favorite classes I've taken at Denison. So I took that class and then I stopped taking classes in that department, but it was still really interesting. And then I also have experience in the global commerce department, which is really popular, and a lot of my friends who I take history classes with choose to double major or major minor with global commerce and history. And so that first class I took was really interesting. We talked about banana republics in South America and like kind of looking at business from an international perspective, but also kind of looking at on the historical side too. So a lot of reading, a lot of writing. It was really a cool class.
Yeah, again, this is honestly one of my favorite things about Denison. Just again, that we're not afraid to innovate, and change doesn't take like a decade at Denison. Things are changing constantly for the better, and I really love that. So facilities. This is the athletic center. Betty, I'm going to kind of let you talk about this slide a little bit, and then I'll chime in at the end.
Yeah, sure. So the athletic center is really great. It was redone in 2013, I think. So since I've been at Denison, so I'm a senior, so I got here fall of 2017. It's still a brand new facility. You can see at the bottom left our Crown Fitness Center. In the middle, it's the front entrance, and then the pool to the right. So I've had a lot of great times there and used the different facilities. So I'm not much of a swimmer myself, but I like going for a swim occasionally. I mostly make use of the hot tub and the pool basketball when I do head down there. And then the weight room is open really early and really late. So I tend to like to work out before classes so it can accommodate me that way. But if you like to go midday or later, that's an option as well. And there are a lot of great offerings, like I play on the club basketball team. So I can compete that way. We have intramural sports. We have a lot of really strong varsity sports, especially our men and women swimming and diving teams are really exceptional. Yeah, they've had a lot of success the last couple of years, and so that's been fun too, is going to support my friends who are varsity athletes at football or basketball or soccer games is a lot of fun.
Yeah, so we're Division III, and we have, as Benny said, quite a bit of success in some of our sports, men and women's swimming and diving most recently, but a lot of our sports tend to do quite well. I know about a third of the student body is involved in varsity athletics. And I would say, and Benny, please feel free to chime in, agree or disagree, especially for a small liberal arts college that is D3, we tend to have quite a bit of athletic spirit. So if you want to be at a place with spirit, but D3, this is a pretty good balance of those. And then, as he said, club and intramural sports also in the Mitchell Center. A couple of things that I like to kind of point out. One, if you're not interested in playing any sports at all, that's totally fine. There's a smoothie bar in the Mitchell Center. They do like Zumba classes, spin classes, lots of other exercise classes that students teach. So a lot of students kind of interact with the Mitchell Center in that way. And then another thing that I recently have started talking more about is this is the public weight center or weight room. So like all students, all faculty, staff, residents of Granville can use this. The varsity athletes also have another weight room that they can use, which, if you're a varsity athlete listening, maybe you think that's really appealing. If you're not a varsity athlete, I'll tell you why I would have found it appealing as a non-varsity athlete is you don't have to go in and compete with huge numbers of athletes to use the equipment, or like when I was in college, maybe this is just me, but sometimes I found it really intimidating to go in and there's the entire football or basketball team lifting serious weights and I was just not at that level, right? So I think it's also a really welcoming athletic center environment, which might sound funny, but as someone that used that a lot in college, I think, and other students with whom I've presented have said that they really like that. So anyway, that's a little bit about athletics, big part of who we are. Kind of on the other side of the spectrum, I would say, is the arts. So this is the Michael D. Eisner Center for the Performing Arts. This is a brand new building. It opened last fall, so it's been open just about a year, not quite. As I said, about 33% of the student body is a varsity athlete. You can see here the statistic, about 33% of our students are involved in music ensembles. And I really love that balance of arts and athletics at Denison. So we have a pretty great art program generally. This is the new home for theater, dance, and music, which have been 3 very successful programs in the past, but the facilities were just kind of lagging behind the quality of the program. Just some like fun little facts. We have some famous performing arts alums like Steve Carell and Jennifer Garner, Alex Moffat, who's on SNL, as Hall Holbrook, if anyone knows who that is, quite famous. They're all Denison alums. So program-wise, you don't have to be a major to get involved in the arts. You can go to performances. You could take a class. You could be in productions and not be any kind of music major or dance major or theater major. That's fine. And then just the facility itself has some really cool kind of technological pieces, including the dance floors are heated. The stage, so the stage is one size, and there's a rehearsal space in the Eisner Center that is the exact same size as the stage, which is really awesome because that means that there can be 2 rehearsals going on at once, or a rehearsal on the rehearsal room and a performance on the stage. So it just really expands the time and offerings. There are also private performance spaces or rehearsal spaces. Yeah, this is also, if you remember one of the first slides of Granville, or the first slide of Granville that we showed you, if you're looking at the Eisner Center, I just like to give people a little bit of like, where are we on campus? That Granville main drag is what, like a block to the right, Benny? 1 or 2 blocks?
Yeah, it's super
Something
easy.
like
yeah,
that.
I mean, you walk out the Eisner Center and you're right there. Yeah.
Yeah. So I just, this is in town. It's on the south side of campus. Again, I think, people from Granville are welcome to come to performances too. And I like that it's kind of like in Granville. Do you have anything to add, Benny, about performances?
Yeah, that's to the kind of the side of not being an arts affiliated student and still having an experience there. So I took a class the fall of my junior year that was on the history of country music and being a country music fan. That was a lot of fun. It was a really interesting class. My professor played the piano, so he had a big piano in the class and like play songs for us. And then it was in a brand new classroom. It's an awesome facility. I know people that sometimes go down there just to do homework that aren't art students, kind of like me. And then obviously if you do want to do something with the arts, it's a really cool, versatile space with all these really cool features.
Yeah, it's great. And the other cool thing is with being so close to Columbus, professors from all departments, but also within the arts specifically, there are professional artists who are also faculty at Denison, or the proximity really allows performances or like guests to come to Granville from Columbus more easily than some colleges where it's quite, it's a bigger schlep, let's just say. So the Knowlton Center for Career Exploration. Benny, do you want to talk a little bit about your experience at the Knowlton Center, and how have they helped you? What has your career exploration looked like at Denison?
Sure. So I've gotten a lot of help over the years from the Knowlton Center. So I came in.
Benny, I think you just cut out. Okay. Can you repeat what you just said?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, super. Yeah, I was going to say, so I came in my first year not really knowing what I wanted to do, and I needed a resume, so they helped me build and then edit my resume. They've helped me apply for internships. Now, being a senior, I'm thinking about jobs in grad school, so helping me with that aspect as well. And they just have a lot of really great resources, so you can meet with peer coaches that are students, that are seniors, that can help, first years and underclassmen kind of get a hold on the career planning process. And then what's really great about the Knowlton Center, they have something like 15 staff members, and they all have different expertise and experience in different fields. So if you're someone that wants to be pre-med or go into business or pre-law, you can meet and talk with someone who has been in the same footsteps as you, and they've worked in those fields and can give you really great advice. So there's a lot of great resources there, and they offer internship funding, which is awesome. So I went to Philadelphia the summer before my junior year, and I did history research. It was a super fun experience. It was unpaid, but thanks to the stipend that I got, I was able to get my housing covered. And so Denison really encourages students to really seek out things that you love and not be worried about the cost. So if you have say like an internship in Seattle, and like in my shoes, like I don't have a place to stay out there, so they can help get me an apartment. And also there's some alums. I see there's a question, is there a strong alumni base? And I'd say 100% yes. I know friends who have stayed in Columbus or have gone to other cities and have been able to stay with Denison alums, or at least get an internship or a job thanks to that Denison connection. And, people really have enjoyed their college experience and come back and reach out. So Michael D. Eisner, who used to be the CEO of Disney, he helped give money for our new art center, and he's still really involved. You see him on campus. Steve Carell spoke at our commencement this past year. There's a lot of alums in a variety of fields that look to give back. And I think what's cool about Denison being such a small school, when you email someone and say I'm at Denison as well, it's cool. You are part of that kind of like small alumni network. Like sometimes I'll be at the airport and I'll have a Denison t-shirt or hat, and you'd be surprised how many people I run into that have a niece or they went to Denison or they have some connection, and people get really excited. Like a school like, say, Ohio State, it's such a big school. I feel like, the likelihood that you meet someone else who went to Ohio State is pretty high. But yeah, meeting people from Denison, it's a really cool experience.
Yeah, I'm not an alumna of Denison, but I have had very similar experiences to like what Benny said in airports or sitting in cafes in San Francisco. I'll be maybe wearing something from Denison or maybe just my name tag. And I have had multiple people come up to me. So I think that the base is really strong. A new thing that's really exciting about the Knowlton Center, which I don't have a ton of details, but we were just given a huge grant, and we will be expanding the Knowlton Center into what we are calling the Launch Lab, which will actually be in downtown Columbus. I'm reading a little bit about it here, which is why I'm looking down. This is brand new. Literally, this launched 4 days ago. So I think this is the first info session with this information, so excuse me. But we're really excited. It's going to be kind of a hub that develops career exploration further. I think the space itself is supposed to be really incredible in terms of the technology there, and having more professionals that are from Columbus. But again, this is going to be like Denison in Columbus. So you could say that the distance from Denison to Columbus is now 0 miles, I suppose, because we'll be there. There'll be more information about the Launch Lab coming with more boot camps and more opportunities, but that's literally about as much as I know right now, but it's a really exciting thing. I think the other thing, Benny touched on this, just the number of people that work in the Knowlton Center, which is about 15 or so. That is a lot of people for a career center at a school our size. I also think one thing that I really have loved, some other students have said on these info sessions is, and I've seen it myself, you'll see the career advisors like out on campus eating with students, having social interactions outside so that students feel comfortable going to them and they're not like the scary career advisor or the person that you only go to your senior year when you're scrounging and you really need help. They're really trying to create an environment of support, and again, their people, your people, getting to know you. And the last thing I would say on that note, I completely forgot. Oh, the space itself. The space itself is really beautiful, very welcoming, and just like Benny mentioned in the arts, I think it's also a space where like students just go and hang out, which is not necessarily the case at a lot of career centers. Would you agree?
You can rent out offices. So there's like a rotating spot where if like it's finals week or you just like want to be in an office and I don't know, get away from your roommates or something. Yeah, you can reserve a space to study in there. They have free candy, they have free coffee. They're really friendly. And I have some friends that work in there. So I've popped in there here and there, and it is a really welcoming space, which is nice.
Yeah. So speaking of kind of career exploration and career study, what are students doing after Denison? This is the other kind of big statistics slide that we share here. And this, we're proud of all of these statistics. I would say that the one that people really love to hit on is that 97% of alumni are working in their desired field or position or are on their way to achieving their professional goals. So we're not just preparing students to have a job, but we're actually preparing them to have jobs in their field of interest or study. And that's something we're really proud of. The other thing I like to say about this slide, I'm not going to read the other statistics, I trust you can see them, is I think one of the things that is really great about Denison is the transparency with which we use these statistics. So if you're interested in, let's say, global commerce, and you want to see what alums are doing, you can just look up Global Commerce Denison. On every department's website, there is an alumni section, and you can see exactly where students are working, where they're going to grad school, and then it'll also break down these statistics per program. So I think that's really great, personally, because you can really learn a lot about a program from what alums are doing. Maybe you don't really know, like, what is global commerce? Well, you can go find out kind of what people are doing. Any other pieces, Benny?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, I know a lot of you watching this right now, you're probably seniors in high school, and so you're not really thinking about like the job market 4 years from now, but I would say don't be discouraged by looking at a liberal arts school and having a liberal arts major. So I have friends who are chemistry majors and then they go to law school, or they're history majors and they go into banking or something. So really focus on studying what you love, and have in the back of mind, like, think about a post-Denison plan. But with the resources we have, you can definitely make the most of your major. And so, like me, for example, being in education, I want to teach, like, that's kind of a pathway that you'd expect. But I have a lot of friends that want to do things with nonprofits. They want to even like do something with business. I mean, all kinds of things with education. And our departments, with the liberal arts, it's really interchangeable, and it's about like learning how to read, write, like think. So it's not like, it's like, a vocational school where you're like trained to do one thing. You can do a lot of different things based off a degree from Denison.
Yeah, I think that's a really great point. So the last slide here, before, I know there's some other questions and we'll get to them, is just admission at Denison. So we practice holistic admission. So as you can see on this graph, about 50% of the application review will be based on your academics. So we're test optional. We have been for over 10 years. So we really are test optional. Do not worry. I know right now is a very scary time for a lot of students in terms of how am I going to take the SAT or ACT? If I can't, will I be eligible for merit scholarships or admission generally? At Denison, do not worry about it. We really are test optional. You will be eligible for everything without a test score that people with a test score are eligible for. So we're going to look at your transcript because we want to make sure that you are academically prepared for Denison. And we'll look at that within the context of your school. So don't worry, a question I get a lot is, my school doesn't offer APs, so am I going to get kind of knocked for not having AP classes on my transcript? Absolutely not. We are going to read within the context of your high school experience. And then the other half are, as you can see, the personal qualifications. So, like, what are you doing in your community right now? What are your teachers saying about you? What are you writing in your essay? Also, we are offering optional interviews. Right now, we are very, very limited on-campus interviews on Saturdays, but we have a lot of virtual interview opportunities. And so you could be interviewing with an admission person like me or with a student like Benny. Mm-hmm. And those are really just times for us to get to know you a little bit, and also for you to ask us questions if you have questions. Maybe after this you have some follow-ups, or you just want to connect with someone a little bit more. That's a great opportunity. We meet 100% of demonstrated need, and we require the FAFSA and CSS profile. We actually don't require W-2s anymore. I'm just having a hard time finding the slide that doesn't have that information on it anymore. And then there are 3 rounds of admission at Denison. So as you can see here, early decision 1 is November 15th, early decision 2, January 15th, and regular decision, January 15th. Early decision is a binding agreement. So if after you've gone to information sessions or visited colleges, Denison is 100% the school for you. This is your number 1 choice and you want to be here. Early decision might be a great choice because if you apply to Denison and you are admitted, then you are coming to Denison. That's the commitment. Regular decision is more of I would say, traditional college process where you're going to apply to quite a few programs, and at in mid-March, you will have your college decisions and make your decision there. We offer merit aid, and you do not have to apply specifically for merit aid. An application for admission is an application for merit aid at Denison. There is a question about academic requirements. There is no minimum GPA. There's no minimum test score. I think that's what you're asking. So anything else here, Benny? Did you interview, Benny?
Yeah, I did. And also, there's a question from Tyler asking if we're need or blind, need aware. And yeah, so we're like need blind. So you apply, you submit everything, and the school will make an offer to you. And then, yeah, I mean, it can all be worked out with financial aid, but your family's financial standing isn't taken into account. They look at you, the student, as a perspective, and yeah, really do what they can to make it work. So I went early decision to Denison. So I found out. I think I applied in September, and then by the end of November, I knew that's where I was headed. Denison was my number one choice. That was really easy. I didn't do so hot in ACT, so for me, it made more sense to go test optional. So I did that, and that worked out well. I have friends who submitted their scores as well, so it's nice that Denison offers that flexibility, and then especially with this pandemic, I know that definitely can relieve some stress. Yeah, Caitlin, back to you.
Yeah, so right now we're going to just kind of go over, we have quite a few questions. So in terms of, I'm going to kind of jump around here, Benny. What do you think makes Denison stand out from other institutions, in your opinion?
So I would say what makes Denison stand out is really just how diverse our student body is. So I'm from the East Coast. I'll give you my room, for example. So I'm from Massachusetts. One of my roommates is from Buffalo, New York. One is from Manchester, New Hampshire, and one's from Hoboken, New Jersey. So a bunch of us are on the East Coast, but then like of my fraternity brothers or of my closest friends, I know people from really all over the place. One of my closest friends is from Alaska. So I would say like that geographic, racial diversity, like Denison's a really great place to meet all kinds of different people. So I've really enjoyed that. I'd say just with our innovative academic programs, really thinking about career exploration and just all the different resources we have here. Like it can be overwhelming at times, but definitely, just like going through the website, like taking it step by step and like realize it's a 4-year plan. Like don't put it all on yourself your senior year. Just like kind of think in the back of your mind about maybe what you want to do after college and all the clubs we have. Yeah, I've had a great choice being here.
Yeah, I think, some of the other things we hit, just our location is somewhat different. And I think that it's not that each of these pieces that Benny and I have hit today make us, our location is not entirely unique, but our location, as well as things like the launch lab, as well as that balance of athletics and arts, as well as that relational approach, all those together, we feel like make Denison a really different place. This is also a place, normally I talk about this on the Relational College slide, where the president typically, in a normal year, we'll see about this year, like walks around campus, right? He is a part of campus life. And I think that's not always the case at colleges. But I would say Adam, our president, is a very relational guy, and that really bleeds down into the rest of campus. Do you want to talk about study abroad a little bit?
Yeah, sure. I actually just got back, it was somewhat short-lived. So I was in Spain for a month and a half when I should have been there for 4 months. This past spring, I was in Granada, which is in southern Spain. It was gorgeous. I had a really good time when I was there, and it was a great experience. About half of Denison students choose to study abroad. I highly recommend it. It definitely opened my eyes to a lot of cool different things. I made a lot of friends along the way. And Denison offers all kinds of programs, whether like say you're a science major, it can be a little bit harder to go abroad, whereas like history, I have like a lot of options. Like most study abroad schools have like a history class, for example, but you can work this out with your advisor and make it work. So for some students, it makes more sense to go for a semester in the fall or spring, and people go during their junior year typically. But for some people, especially like swimmers and basketball players that are 2-semester athletes, they go during the summer. So there's a lot of different programs that are semester long, 4-week, 8 weeks. So there are a lot of options there.
Yeah, we have about 180 different pre-approved programs at Denison, and over 80% of Denison students typically have some kind of global opportunity. That statistic will change slightly in this year, obviously. Yeah. But we also have what are called Denison Seminars, which are a little bit different. They are classes taught by 2 faculty, and they typically have a travel component as well. So if you're, as Benny said, maybe you're an athlete, or maybe you just don't really want to live abroad for as long, seminars can give you a little bit of a taste of that. Let's talk about, do you ever feel like the student body feels too small or cliquey?
For me personally, no. So like Denison's size, 2,300, I really like it. Like I knew I went to I went to two high schools. So I went to Wellesley High outside of Boston at 1,600. And then I actually moved to Ohio for the last 2 years of high school. And I went to a high school 600. So I knew 600 was way too small. I definitely wanted to go to a school that was bigger than my first high school, which was 1,600. And I think 2,300, like in that kind of 2,000 range is really nice because my classes are small. They have around 30 students, but it's also big enough that I definitely don't feel like it's cliquey. So my fraternity has 50 people. There's lots of different student groups on campus, and I feel like everyone, for the most part, gets along pretty well. So of my closest friends, I hang out with people on different sports teams, different fraternities, different other groups on campus. Denison's only, I know I've kind of talked about Greek life a fair amount, but only 33% of Denison is Greek. So whether or not you choose to rush or not rush, there's no stigma associated with it. If it's something you're interested in, definitely seek it out. But if not, it's not a big deal. So I feel like Denison, there's just enough to do that it doesn't get cliquey. So like here I am, I'm a senior, and I still there's some seniors who I'll get to know through my classes that through my previous 3 years I haven't gotten a chance to talk to.
Yeah, that's great. There was a question about accounting. The closest thing to accounting is the financial economics concentration, which we can share more information with you, or if you just look up financial economics.
There's actually one class, I don't know, Caitlin, if you know about this. There's one, I have some friends who've taken it who are on the finance track, and it's on like Wednesday nights, and it's actually a guy who's a CPA, so he works in Columbus, and then he comes back to Denison and teaches that class. So you can't be an accounting major at Denison, but you can definitely go on a finance track and take at least one accounting course.
Yeah. And so within that course or the track itself, we really feel like both of those students who want to work in finance, that's kind of the way that they do that at Denison, and it's another example of those innovative programs. So what are your favorite Denison traditions, Benny?
Ooh, I would say, so Augo and Juno are how new students get oriented. So Juno is when you come to campus, you're here for 2 days and 1 night, and you register for classes. It's like your first time being at Denison as a Denison student. So you're in a group of about 20 people. They're students that are leaders. You get a Juno advisor that's a faculty member that's going to help you out. So that's a really fun thing. And then Augo, our August orientation, is the Denison first years get here a few days early, and then they're student leaders that take them through icebreakers and different things like going on tours of campus and really helping people get integrated before the rest of the student body comes back. Another thing that's really fun is D-Day, which is right around Thanksgiving. So that's the concert that's put on every year. So, you know, in this time, I'm not really sure what our D-Day is going to look like, but I'm trying to think. So my first year, Kyle came. My sophomore year, it was B.O.B. And then I'm trying to think. My third year, I guess I was abroad. But it was a really cool concert. And yeah, they're fun. It's like it's a free concert for students. So that's once a year. We do Estivalia, which is like a spring gathering where there's like a bouncy house, all kinds of free food. So the school, our clique, which is the campus leadership office, they put on lots of fun free events for students. And I love football games personally. So one of our big rivals is Kenyon, just up the road. It's like going to a Kenyon Denison football game is a lot of fun. And it's really cool when the players walk out. So Woody Hayes, who's Ohio State's football coach, he went to Denison, he coached here, and there's a rock that's to commemorate him. So when all the players walk out, like they touch the rock, I think kind of similar to what Clemson does. So yeah, that's kind of a cool thing we do here.
Great, thank you. We have a question about how is diversity expressed at Denison? Will students from different backgrounds feel comfortable and supported at Denison? Do you want to answer that? Do you want me to tackle it, Benny?
I've answered the last couple. Yeah. You can take it if you want, Caitlin.
Yeah, so as you can see, or as you can't see anymore, our first slide, about 22% of our students identify as domestic students, identify as students of color. We also have a pretty vibrant international student body. I think it's about 14% right now. International, and that actually international population is quite diverse within the international student body. There are a number of different other diversity factors, and then I'll answer the support too, but socioeconomically our campus is quite diverse, as well as politically. This is a campus that's a little more diverse politically than some liberal arts colleges as well, which a lot of my students out here in California with whom I work really are interested in that, because you are definitely going to meet someone who has a different political belief as you or from you. So there are a number of different support systems on campus, whether it's pre-orientation support, there's a pre-orientation program called Paving the Way that specifically works with first-generation college students to help them feel supported before they are on campus. The Office of Multicultural Student Life is kind of the larger umbrella organization. From also learning support, I think the Academic Resource Center. We're actually doing, starting this week actually, a number of new webinars about campus life at Denison. So this week specifically, we actually have, I think it's tonight, life on a predominantly white institution, or life at a predominantly white institution. So a little bit about multicultural support here at Denison. And then later, I think it's in October, we have kind of support broadly at Denison. So on that panel, there's going to be people from the Academic Resource Center, the multicultural, the Office of Multicultural Student Life, the Wellness Center. So if you want more specifics, you can also look into those. But I think that most students feel comfortable at Denison. There are people from all over, as Benny said. Do you want to answer, how do you feel like Denison's liberal arts curriculum prepares students for their professional careers?
So I would say taking classes in a variety of areas really helps prepare students. So to graduate from Denison, you need to take 1 math class, 1 science class, 2 social sciences. So, I mean, it doesn't matter what you want to do or what job you have. Being a liberal arts student and graduate, you're going to be well-versed in a variety of areas. And so whatever you do, it's good to have experience in all these areas and be able to critically think for yourself. And Denison has pre-professional organizations. So there's like a biology club, there's investment club, so there's a lot of student organizations. The Knowlton Center has a lot of resources there. So definitely, as you're thinking about post-Denison life, there are a lot of resources there.
Yeah, as Benny said, about a third of your academic, or about a third of your classes are going to be in that general education requirements, about a third in your major and about a third electives. That's if you have 1 major. So I think, we're really trying not only those general education requirements, but a lot of classes are interdisciplinary by nature as well. So making sure that students feel well-rounded. And as Benny said earlier, he has friends in his programs that don't want to be teachers. They want to go into nonprofits. So we're really preparing students for all different postgraduate lives. And then there's a question about mental health, and there's counseling available at Denison in terms of the professional help. So that's one. I also think that the Academic Resource Center, while not the Wellness Center, provides opportunities for students to learn different ways of handling the stress of classes and different resources there as well. So unless anyone has any questions, that's the final one. It's been really great to chat with all of you. I'm going to put my email in the chat, Benny, if you want to do the same.
Yeah.
If you have any questions, feel free to email us. We are more than happy to answer your questions. We love talking about Denison. That's why we're here. But we hope that you enjoyed this session. We hope you learned about Denison. And again, do not hesitate to be in touch. And we hope you have a great rest of the week. So thanks, everyone. Thanks, Benny.
Yep. See ya.
Bye.